Hey guys, so I've received a ton of interest from both current hosts and aspiring hosts who want to expand their rental arbitrage business outside of the US, but they have a lot of hesitation in taking that first step. And one of the main questions that people always ask me is, how do I choose the right location? So I wanted to respond to that question today and discuss really the main metrics that I use to determine which cities work the best for my business and what's going to be the most attractive first step. So for today, I created a video that includes the 10 essential factors that determine an attractive international city for your short-term rental business. So the first one by far, hands down, guys, is the legal environment. You really want to make sure that you select a city that has favorable regulations for short-term rentals. Now, if you have a city or a place that doesn't necessarily allow those rentals, there's still ways around it. So don't let that deter you. But ideally, if you choose a city that's more favorable towards short-term rentals, it's going to make the process of acquiring the property much, much easier, meaning you're going to get better deals for nicer properties. But also, you're going to have a lot more protection when you're actually running the business, going through and handling each guest, because from time to time you'll have issues. And so, places with favorable regulation have to rank very high on your list. So the second thing is tourist demand. You really want to choose a city with a high influx of tourists or business travelers to ensure a steady stream of potential guests. So consider factors such as popular attractions, business hubs, conferences that attract visitors. For example, one of the markets that I really like and am looking into now is Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. And the reason for that is because, again, the regulation is very low. They actually have laws in place that protect your right as a homeowner or a home renter to short-term lease your property out. But also, Rio de Janeiro is going to be an area that has a lot of travel, a lot of tourism, both for business purposes and for leisure. They have tons of different events throughout the year. And so it's a really, really attractive market for those two reasons. The third point that I look for is the tourism infrastructure. So you want to look for cities that have a well-developed tourism infrastructure, including efficient transportation, airports, train stations, public transportation, and consider how available each of those are, and other amenities such as restaurants, shopping centers, entertainment venues, recreational facilities, because these are all things that are going to factor into providing a really good guest experience and getting the traffic that you need. The other thing I take a look at is market competition. I want to assess the level of competition in the short-term rental market, because if you go into a place that there are already very well established, very large operators in that area, it just means that the bar is going to be set much higher. It doesn't mean that you can't compete in those markets. It doesn't mean that you can't be successful. It just means that the competition level is going to be higher. So you got to bring a better game. If you choose areas that have that high demand but don't necessarily have as many of the experienced operators, then the bar is much lower and being able to succeed in your space becomes now a lot easier. So you want to assess overall occupancy rates, average rental prices. You want to take a look at the overall market saturation and say, hey, is this area getting a lot of attention but is underserved? Right? And understanding that competition is going to help you determine the potential for success in that particular market. The next thing I take a look at is the affordability of the properties. You want to consider the cost of actually acquiring the rent or leasing the properties in that city, and evaluate the real estate market to understand property prices and the potential return on investment. It's very, very important to strike a balance. Ideally, you want an area where the nightly rates are high or higher on Airbnb versus the amount of rent that you pay, right? So it's all about that ratio. You may have an area that has lower nightly rates, but the property prices are lower, and so the margins even out. So you want to look at the balance between rental rates and average nightly rates. The other thing I take a look at is, in this market, how seasonal is it? Are there times during the year that are much, much better than others? Is it a steep drop off or is it more moderate? So I really want to analyze the city's seasonal patterns and event calendar, because some cities experience those fluctuations in tourist demand based on the time of year, based on major events, based on what's going on in the city. And so understanding the seasonality and identifying popular events can really help you plan your pricing strategy and marketing efforts accordingly. The next point I take a look at is how safe and secure an area is. You want to choose a city that is safe, right? It's pretty straightforward. If you have a bunch of guests coming to a city and they're at risk or they feel like they're in danger, obviously that's going to lead to less tourism, less people coming to reserve your properties. Also, as a host, you have some liability there, as I've actually had places get broken into before and have had to deal with that, right? So selecting areas and cities that are going to be safer and more reliable in terms of emergency services is going to help you a lot in the long term. So the next thing I take a look at in a city is how safe and secure that it is. Ideally, you want to choose cities that are known for safety or at least have reliable emergency services. Now, you can't always go based on rumors. You have to really do research yourself. For example, I'm in Medellin, Colombia, and so a lot of times people will say, hey, the crime rate's high, it's dangerous, and certainly any city can be, depending on how you act in that city. But Medellin, as long as you follow some basic ground rules, it's a very safe, very friendly city to be in. So don't listen to the rumors, but you do want to do your own research, and you really want to understand, is an area dangerous? Is there high rates of crime? How are the safety measures and the general reputation of the city? Because it's going to make your life easier. The guests are going to have a better experience because they prioritize their safety, and long term it's going to be a more sustainable market that can attract more bookings. So that's a really important piece. Now also, I want to consider the online presence of that city. How popular is that city in travel and booking platforms? Especially if you're using, let's say Airbnb or Booking.com or VRBO, any of the major platforms as the main way that you receive your new business, you want to take a look at how popular this city is on those various platforms and how much business you can expect to generate on your rentals. You want to evaluate the presence and the performance of rentals in your market. A city with a strong online presence indicates a high and healthy demand for accommodations and can significantly impact your long-term occupancy rates. So it's super important. The other thing that I like to talk about that I think is often overlooked, even though it seems very obvious, is the cultural considerations. It's very important to understand how the locals do things. What are the local customs, the language? How is business done? What is the culture surrounding business here in my market? Because first of all, it's going to help you grow and scale a staff much, much easier. It's also going to put you in a position to have better relationships with people that you work with, which in itself is a strong way to lower the amount of liability that you have, right? More people that can help vouch for you, can say that you have a good name, can support you with different resources, or, there's just been various times where people have bailed me out of tight situations that they came from places that I least expected. Landlords that I didn't expect, or guests, or building administrations that really helped out. So you want to familiarize yourself with the local culture, traditions, and norms to provide a more personalized experience for you and for your guests. This could also include providing recommendations on local attractions, restaurants, or activities that align with your guests' interests. So in summary, when you select an international city for your short-term rental business, it's essential to consider factors such as tourist demand, the legal regulations, the infrastructure, the competition, the affordability of the property, how seasonal it is, how safe and secure it is, and then the online presence. So I really appreciate it, guys. Let me know in the comments more if you have any additional questions or any specific topics you want us to go over. Thanks.